Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. And since we haven't done a lot of music reviews lately, I figured a good return to form would be talking about the alleged worst thing to ever happen to music that came out of Canada. No, I already talked about Justin Bieber at least 3 times before this. No, today we're going to be looking at the alleged worst thing to happen to pop music before Justin Bieber, that being the rock group Nickelback. Getting their start in the mid-90s with albums like The State, which was actually positively received when it initially came out, the band went on to become the go-to for crappy mainstream music in a lot of people's eyes. Ever since the early 2000s, Nickelback has been hailed as one of the worst things to ever happen to popular music. After one of their first big hits, How You Remind Me, they began their reign of radio wave domination with 2 types of songs: wannabe hardcore rock songs and soft rock love ballads. Up there with similar acts like Creed and, well, I was gonna say Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock, but I feel like that's not a fair comparison. Limp Bizkit seems to have gotten their second wind recently, and Kid Rock is just a massive attention whore. Every song from Nickelback since their breakout has often been criticized for sounding too similar to one another, and while I was never the biggest fan of their work or anything, I think the reason they were considered the worst thing ever was simply because they were popular. Their songs were everywhere, they were inescapable, and having to hear their songs all around the clock, they just soured on the general public. Let's put this into perspective. Not only were Nickelback and Justin Bieber insanely popular, which made them prime targets for hate, but what else was popular at that point that was also getting a bunch of flack? The Bayformer movies, the Twilight franchise, Rebecca Black, Fred. These things were popular and were everywhere, so if you started off not liking these things to begin with, then you absolutely hated them more simply because you could not get away from them. Interestingly, I've heard the next generation of overexposed and overhated bands to follow Nickelback was stuff like Imagine Dragons, and I think that's a great comparison. Imagine Dragons was everywhere in the 2010s and became an easy punchline for many a music critic. But much like the Justin Bieber backlash has been reevaluated, it seems Nickelback is getting the same treatment, with people saying that it wasn't fair to call them the worst thing ever. Even getting a whole documentary that chronicled their public disdain. Though honestly, that movie could have gone down a lot more stuff about them, if I can be totally honest. For a band that was this controversial simply because they just made songs people didn't like, I'd like to hear a little bit more about them, like how they got into music, their background, and stuff like that. However, as time has gone on, Nickelback's popularity slowly faded as the popularity of rock and roll slowly started dying on mainstream radio charts. And it seems them being less popular actually worked out in their favor, since their music, while it still mostly sounds the same, isn't as overplayed or as overexposed. One thing you gotta commend the Nickelback boys for is that at least they're willing to try new things. Case in point, their weird 2014 album No Fixed Address, which gave us such winning tracks like their attempt at making a Rage Against the Machine style political song, funk-inspired pop rock song about picking up chicks at the bar, a love song that follows a Bonnie and Clyde style romance between 2 criminals, which, by the way, is a follow-up song to another song they did about the same group of criminals trying to rob a bank. And even a song where they collaborated with Flo Rida, of all people. We're not looking at any of the songs off of that album. No, we're going to be talking about a song off of the album that followed it, Feed the Machine, which, in a lot of respects, was just a basic return to form for Nickelback. Released in 2017, Feed the Machine was just them going back to their usual post-grunge hard rock roots, and it seems that it worked out for them for the most part. It did well on the charts, and it seems that it got decent reception amongst music review sites. It produced 4 singles, which is at least 2 less than No Fixed Address had, and honestly that might have been the right move. The 4 singles include another vaguely political revolution song that's, well, it's better than Age of a Revolution, I'll say that. Then there's a soft rock love ballad, typical for a Nickelback record. Then there's a self-empowerment feel-good song, which didn't get a music video, but it and the other single at least got lyric videos made for them. Then we come to the final single, the song we're going to be talking about today. A song that has always stuck out to me because of its confusing lyrics and subject matter. This is Must Be Nice by Nickelback. Let's start with the beat. It's honestly not that bad. I dare say it actually sounds pretty decent. Nickelback have often been cited as butt rock, as a way of saying that they're not real rock and roll and lacked real edge, and that it was safe compared to other real rock acts. But honestly, I think whenever they tried doing harder sounding songs, those were the ones I tended to like more. It was their softer stuff I was never really fond of. Maybe I'm biased because of the sound, even at the time wasn't too common in the mainstream. I mean, unless you were looking for rock and roll in the underground spaces where you'll find plenty of it, the closest thing on the radio that was even remotely considered rock was Maroon 5 and Imagine Dragons, and yeah, no, I'm gonna give that a fast pass. So if anything, I will give the beat some minor praise. The guitar and drums aren't perfect or anything, but I actually don't mind the harmony going on here. But this is the part of the song that has always stuck with me. Get this. This is a rock song built around fairy tales and nursery rhymes. Yeah, at first glance, you probably expect the whole fractured fairy tale tropes to just be a thing in animated movies like Shrek, or horror movies like Leprechaun, or maybe the occasional cartoon or video game or anime or manga or something like that. Well, guess what? They also expand to music, and this was apparently Nickelback's attempt at doing that. So, let's look at some of the lyrics and figure out what we're dealing with here.
Step two, step electric slide. Red fish, blue fish, blow your mind. Engine number 9. Mama gonna lift us up the moon on fire.
Alright, just to get this out of the way, let's just keep tabs of everything they're referencing throughout the lyrics in this song. So far we got the electric slide dance move, Red Fish, Blue Fish by Dr. Seuss, Roger Miller's Engine number 9 song, only to be followed by references to Humpty Dumpty, a graphic version of Jack Be Nimble, and even reworked lyrics from Hush Little Baby.
Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack found up with the broken leg. Humpty Dumpty, do your thing. Daddy gonna buy you a diamond ring.
Well, I think it's easy to see what's wrong with the lyrics going by the first verse. The lyric is supposed to be, Mommy's gonna buy you a diamond ring, not Daddy. Oh, what a silly mistake. Also, what the hell are they even remotely talking about? What do any of these things have to do with one another? Humpty Dumpty is a fairy tale, while Jack Be Nimble is a nursery rhyme. Hush Little Baby is a lullaby. While all very similar, they're not exactly the same thing. And seriously, name-dropping Dr. Seuss books. References to old dance crazes like the electric slide. But it doesn't end there, it continues into the second verse too.
Susie Steamboat, you're so fine. Grant the wish, I wish tonight. Take a deal of what you got. Wheels on the bus are falling off.
Alright, Susie Steamboat is apparently a reference to an old jump rope song called Miss Susie, and much like the lyric that follows it, they didn't even get the lyric right. As for Tinker Tailor, it's an old counting rhyme from the 1600s, and as for that play on Wheels on the Bus, if the bus in question is from those stupid YouTube Kids videos that rake in millions of views, then I will happily see the wheels falling off of that.
Pretty maids all in a row. Yes, sir, 3 bags full. Silver spoon at supper time. For a 20 black pencils so loud.
Alright, even more nursery rhymes, from Ba Ba Black Sheep to Mary Mary Quite Contrary. The last line is just straight reused from Song of Sixpence. And as for the silver spoon at supper time line, that might be a reference to the spoon from Hey Diddle Riddle, but more than likely it's probably just a play on the idiom of being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Oh, honestly, that lyric about a silver spoon might actually have more to do with the rest of the song than the actual verses themselves, because that's what brings us to the chorus.
Oh, it must be nice to spend each day in paradise. You wonder why you never failed. Your life's a goddamn fairy tale.
That's the connection. That's the reason why most of the verses are supposed to be referencing fairy tales and nursery rhymes. Because this song is apparently some kind of diss towards someone whose life is a fairy tale and because their life is so perfect, because they never really tried. Bit of a stretch, but okay, let's run with this. My main criticism here is, who exactly is this song aimed at? I mean, who is living this perfect fairy tale existence? Especially compared to the multi-million-dollar band that's singing this song. Like, maybe it's another vague political thing, taking down those who are wealthy and have insane amounts of power that don't deserve it. I don't think this was made directly for their fans, at least I would hope not. I've searched high and low, and I haven't found any definitive motivation on Chad Kroeger's part, seeing how he's credited as the lead writer. So maybe then it's a generalized statement, like a song that can be used as a premeditative diss for people to use against people they think are privileged and have a ton of great things they don't deserve. I would say this is an attempt at trying to be relatable to the common man. I've heard other reviews say that about this song, but honestly, I've seen worse examples of this. Hell, I reviewed one that was worse than this with Fancy Like, which I think was a way better example of a crappy pop song that was attempting to relate to the average Joe. The closest to an explanation I could find was when Chad Kroeger was talking about the album, and he said that he didn't want this album to, quote, please everyone. So yeah, that was Must Be Nice by Nickelback. It's about 3 minutes long, and it follows a very repetitive yet standard structure of verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, chorus. Not much to it. And after a while, I started thinking to myself, is there a way of doing this kind of song correctly? And as it turns out, I actually have 2 examples of how you can do this kind of thing right. If you want a hardcore rock song that leads into references to nursery rhymes, I'd recommend Chutes and Ladders by Korn, which actually used the whole dark versions of nursery rhymes motif way better, since a lot of the ones they used, like Ring Around the Rosie for example, actually did have dark connotations to them. And if you want to use a song that takes a classic old-timey song as a springboard, there's Pop Goes the Weasel by the comedy rap group Third Base. Yeah, it's silly, but at least it's aware of it and is trying to have fun with it. Overall, this song sucks, but it's probably not even Nickelback's worst song. I would definitely say it's one of their silliest, but not worst. Even if I reviewed this long ago when I did my countdown of worst songs I've ever reviewed, it probably wouldn't have even cracked the list. The lyrics are incredibly stupid, but the beat somewhat makes up for it and keeps me from utterly hating it. Much like reviews I've done from other acts like Maroon 5 and Imagine Dragons, this will probably be the only video I do on Nickelback, since I don't feel like there's much to say about them that hasn't already been said. And besides, coming from a dedicated non-fan of Nickelback like me, I think it's pretty safe in saying Nickelback really wasn't the worst thing to ever happen to music. No. That's obviously Broken Side.
Teach me how to scream. Teach me how to scream. Teach me how to scream.
Before you ask, no, I have no plans on doing a review of Broken Side. They suck. That's all you need to know. Until next time, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough.
A guys named Chad are really, really hot. I heard he married the queen of punk rock. Guys named Chad are really, really hip. I bet his band gets a lot of chicks. And all your life, I will remember you, my one and only friend. I hate Nickelback, we'll ride this eagle down our old avenue. We'll make it to the end.
Okay, the backlash against you guys playing the Lions-Packers game, Thanksgiving, is bad.
It can't be that bad.
Can't be that bad. Okay, dude from Nickelback.